Before we start, a warning. This episode contains material some people may find distressing. If you've been on TikTok lately, you may have seen them.
Stop scrolling and listen to my terrible story.
Videos of strange-looking animated children, desperate for your attention.
Brace yourself for a harrowing journey through a story of unimaginable sadness, where the echoes of suffering resonate in every word.
They all have a harrowing tale to tell. Children who describe how they were murdered by strangers. Babies who say they were tortured to death.
The darkness I endured haunts me to this day. The memories of the abuse, the fear, and the pain are etched into my being.
Some of these figures may appear a bit cartoonish, but each of them represents a real-life tragedy that happened. So how have these videos of dead children been created? The answer is AI, artificial intelligence. They're entirely computer-generated. The faces, the voices, the words, all created using AI software, but with their stories based on actual events. Some of these videos have millions of views, but grieving relatives say they should never have been made. So what's going on? I'm Ed Main, and this is the first episode of Extreme, a new series from BBC Trending. We're going to be investigating the ways social media is shaping beliefs on the fringes of the internet and driving extreme behaviour. Stories about real-life murders have always provided the subject matter for vast amounts of films, TV, books, and of course journalism. But something new has come along, thanks in part to the increasing accessibility of AI tools online. For very little money, it's now possible to create and animate a basic image of a person. You can even give it a pre-recorded script to say. Since around April this year, waves of these videos featuring AI versions of dead or missing children have been posted on TikTok. Children whose names you may know from shocking news stories about abduction and murder. In March, TikTok had banned so-called synthetic media, or AI videos that use the likeness of real children. But that didn't prevent the trend from taking off. Some of the faces of the children in these videos don't look anything like the actual person, but others are based on genuine photos. None of them were made with the consent of the victims' relatives. So we've chosen not to use any clips from videos based on children who we're going to mention by name in this episode. Now, if one of these sorts of videos pops up in your TikTok feed, it can be more than a little creepy. There's often a bit in the script which aims to persuade viewers that the purpose of the video is to advocate for better child protection. It's quite surreal when the fake murder victim says they've come back to deliver a sort of public service announcement.
Through sharing my story, I hope to raise awareness about the urgency of protecting children from abuse and neglect. No child.
I have now seen at least 24 of these videos, and I have yet to see anything that looks remotely like child protection.
Baroness Beban Kidron is an independent member of the British Parliament's House of Lords.
And what I've really seen in these videos is a deliberate attempt to use the violence perpetrated on a child to raise viewing figures.
Baroness Kidron also chairs the Five Rights Foundation, a charity which campaigns to make the digital world a safer place for children. Her work brings her into frequent contact with bereaved families. She says these videos are anything but benign.
I found them really upsetting. And I found them upsetting for two reasons. One is that they were purporting to be the voice of a dead child. And so you had that sort of the visceral effect of someone who you know is not there saying something about their life, and more particularly about the nature of their death. And then the images themselves were very, very highly polished, sort of uber artificial images. And that disconnect between the real and the unreal was both very compelling, but also very disturbing.
If you go on TikTok, you'll see lots of videos about some of these tragedies, which are of a more conventional should we say, true crime variety. What is it, do you think, about these particular videos that crosses a line or might cause particular distress to somebody?
I think what one's got to consider is that if someone's speaking in the first person, that they are pretending to speak as the murdered child. Now, if you are someone who was connected to that child, particularly a parent or a family member, then it is an assault, an emotional assault. It's a re-victimization.
You say re-victimization. Do you think it could add to the trauma of somebody who's already dealing with an appalling tragedy?
Absolutely.
It wasn't long after these videos started appearing that relatives of some of those featured began speaking out. One of the first was a Canadian woman called Amélie Lemieux. In July 2020, her two daughters, 6-year-old Romy and 11-year-old Nora, were murdered by her estranged husband, who then killed himself. It was a horrific crime that shocked the nation. During a break in the coroner's inquiry in April this year, Amélie got a call from a journalist about a video that had been made of Nora.
Puis elle m'a informée de la vidéo. Elle m'a demandé si j'avais vu la vidéo, si j'étais au courant.
She told me about the video. She asked if I had seen the video, if I was aware of artificial intelligence and what can be done. I didn't really understand at that point, so she sent me the link by email. So then I opened the link and I wasn't able to really watch until the end. And my brother couldn't either. He was shouting for it to stop.
The video wasn't something she could easily put out of her mind.
Ben oui, parce que quand on perd ses
Yes,
enfants,
because
on perd
when you lose a child, you lose half of yourself.
Moi, j'en ai perdu 2.
I lost 2, so I lost 2/3 of myself. And you can't hear them anymore. They don't come to wake you up anymore. They don't talk anymore. They don't ask for anything anymore. So when you hear videos like that, you imagine that they're there. It confuses your brain. It's an internal battle because you watch that and it looks like our daughter who's speaking or our child. Then you tell yourself, no, it's not real. They're gone. And at the same time, you're yearning. You think, oh my God, it's not possible. They have to be here. They're not gone. So yes, you're set off on a complete whirlwind internally. And it's traumatic, really. It's completely disorientating. It hits you hard.
Amélie also feared for others affected by the tragedy. What if her young nieces and nephews were scrolling through TikTok and came across this thing that said it was their murdered cousin? But although the video was reported to TikTok by multiple people, it stayed online. Amélie spoke out in media interviews, and TikTok placed a warning on the video. Eventually, the anonymous account that posted it was deleted. Amélie hasn't discovered who made the video, but she wants them to understand how she feels.
Comment je peux vous dire ça? C'est pire que de recevoir là, le pire uppercut.
How can I explain it? It's worse than having to take the worst uppercut you could ever imagine. It completely throws you off. It's unbelievably shocking for someone to use something so disturbing, something that will leave us incomplete for the rest of our days. While they're doing that, they want views. All they want is views, likes, shares. And the people who leave the comments below, personally, I cannot forgive that.
So who are the people making these sorts of videos, and why? Well, they tend to remain anonymous. Many of their accounts don't have proper names, just random jumbles of letters and numbers. But we have managed to identify someone who is a prolific creator. His name is Ritul, and he's a student in London who wants to be an entrepreneur. He's posted dozens of TikToks of AI-generated children, including the one we heard with the victims saying they were sharing their story to help others. But is Ritul more motivated by altruism or a desire for clicks? Well, if you look at his YouTube channel, you get the impression it's very much the latter.
I gained thousands and thousands of followers posting storytelling videos only using AI. As you can see on the screen, I have gained 47k, and this was only under 3 weeks. And in this video I'll be showing you guys step to step how I make these AI created videos.
He begins the tutorial with a news article about a baby who died from horrific wounds inflicted by her carers. He doesn't agonize over the words he's going to give his AI child to say. Instead, he simply feeds the article into AI software that generates text on demand.
Now you're gonna tell it to write a first-person story from the person's perspective using the website, just like I do in this video.
Having got his script, he does the rest using a combination of AI tools. His game plan is to keep churning out 2 videos a day, but to what end?
I'll be posting a video on how much TikTok pays me for getting over 1 million views every single day, so stay tuned for that.
That video has yet to appear, and Rittle's TikTok channel has since been deleted. Rittle himself declined to be interviewed or answer our questions. There's been a lot of publicity lately about AI, predictions about how it's going to revolutionize various aspects of life in the next few years. But many people in the AI industry are horrified by what Rittle and others are doing. Tony Obey is a former Google AI designer, and he posted this TikTok to his hundreds of thousands of followers.
There's a disturbing new trend on this app, which is channels that steal the faces and the voices of murdered children and bring them back to life using AI in order to chase clout. These videos are being done against the consent of the families of these children, and this is not okay. For example,
Tony hails from the same part of Canada as Amélie Lemieux, so her story really hit home with him. But the response to his video wasn't quite what he expected.
I got a mixed reaction, which was very surprising to me because I was thinking like most people would be agreeing with me. But I got a few people pushing back in my comments saying, no, it's more entertainment, it's okay. We're like doing education, we're like preventing these kind of like crimes to happen again by talking about these stories.
But Tony was also contacted by one of the biggest players in AI-generated video. In the past 2 years, more than 150 million videos have been made using DID's products. But that figure now included some which depict murdered children.
Yeah, I think when we first started to see these kinds of uses of our technology, we were very, very uncomfortable.
Matthew Kershaw is DID's Vice President of Commercial Strategy.
We've put in place a lot of guardrails against things like misinformation. So, you can't upload pictures of celebrities or politicians and get them to talk. I don't think anyone was expecting this to be one of the ways in which our kind of technology would be used.
DID sought Tony's help to identify which of their customers might be making some of these victim videos, so they could cancel their contracts. However, the anonymous nature of the accounts posting this content made that a very difficult task. But without an audience for this content, it simply wouldn't be made. A TikTok video has to grab attention in seconds, or viewers just keep scrolling. The more extreme the story, the better. And it seems particularly horrific tragedies transcend borders. James Bulger was 2 years old when he was sadistically murdered by 2 older boys, after becoming separated from his mother at a shopping centre in Merseyside in 1993. 30 years on, those events continue to have enormous emotional resonance in the British national consciousness. Many people remember it as a uniquely evil crime. Now, James's story is being used for clickbait videos for viewers thousands of miles away. In a 2-month period, I logged around 170 different AI versions of James on TikTok, in several different languages. These included 2 videos on a Vietnamese account, which between them had received around 4 million views. So why are so many people watching these videos so far away from where these events took place? I spoke to my colleague Thung Le, who works for BBC Vietnamese.
There were thousands of comments under the 2 videos, and overwhelmingly, they expressed sympathy for the victim and his family. I spoke to 5 people aged between 27 and 40 who commented, and that was very much their feeling as well.
Did they consider at all the impact that these types of video might have on relatives of the victim?
So the people that I spoke to all recognized that the family had suffered an appalling tragedy, and that seeing videos like this would make their pain worse. One woman said that if this story is repeated on social media, the relative will be tortured again and again, but nobody said these videos should be banned.
We've not been able to find out who created these particular videos. The person behind the account didn't reply, but you've been able to interview a TikTok moderator.
Yes. We don't often hear directly from the people whose job is to decide if the content should be removed when there is a complaint. And we agree not to name him so he doesn't lose his job, and his words are spoken by someone else.
When I watched the link you sent, it was the first time that I've seen video like this. I don't see TikTok user reporting these videos either.
I asked him about TikTok's attitude to these shorter videos, and what he said was quite surprising.
The 2 videos about James don't violate TikTok community guideline policy because the content is intended to educate user. As far as I know, these videos are counted as victim disclosure. It means the victim is sharing their own story that relates to the real event. Users do not receive any warning before watching them. The value of videos like that is they can help the community by making people aware of an issue, and they often easily go viral.
But these aren't victims sharing their own stories, are they? They're images of a dead child somebody's created with a computer.
Exactly. So I asked him about the ban on AI videos of real children that TikTok introduced in March. The moderator told me that his team still hadn't been told about it, and that was several months after the ban came in.
Videos are only taken down if they have the violation, such as using offensive or bullying language to attack an individual. If the victim family members want to make a complaint, they may use the basic report button on the platform.
Let's go back to what the moderator called victim disclosure. We had a look at TikTok's community guidelines, and they do say that material which might otherwise be banned may be allowed if it's in the context of a survivor of awful events talking about their experiences. But of course, that's not what you're getting with these videos.
BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Andrew Peach.
In July, a few days after that conversation with the moderator, the flood of AI versions of James Bulger became headline news in Britain.
The mother of James Bulger has criticised AI-generated pictures of her son shown on the video-sharing site TikTok. Denise Fergus told the Mirror newspaper the images were beyond sick.
More than 100 videos of James disappeared from TikTok in a few hours, including those 2 in Vietnamese, and one made by Rittle, the London student. TikTok also removed some videos showing other children, some of which had been on the platform for months. TikTok issued a statement saying,
"There is no place on our platform for disturbing content of this nature. Our community guidelines are clear that we do not allow synthetic media that contains the likeness of a young person. We continue to remove content of this nature as we find it."
So might the tide be turning? Here's Thong Lei from BBC Vietnamese again.
I went back and spoke to the moderator again about 2 weeks after the James Bulger videos were taken down. He said that he didn't know that they had been removed. In fact, he was surprised when I told him that that had happened. He said that they still hadn't been officially told about the ban on AI videos of real children.
So is there some confusion among TikTok's workforce about what the company's policy actually is? Well, TikTok didn't specifically respond on that point when we approached them for comment. But TikTok did make clear that the moderator we spoke to was wrong to suggest that AI videos of dead children could be allowed on the platform as survivors' experiences, because obviously they're not survivors' experiences. TikTok says it proactively removes content that breaks its rules, and it says it does that using a combination of proactive technology, user reports, and flags from trusted partners. Now, at the time I'm recording this episode, it's still easy to find these sorts of videos on TikTok, but TikTok says they're very open about the fact that they won't catch everything. That's it for this episode of BBC Trending with me, Ed Main. My thanks to Thuong Le and Helene Dufosse. Our editor was Flora Carmichael. Thanks for listening. Remember to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already, so you don't miss any of the episodes. If you want to get in touch, then you can do so by emailing me at edward.main@bbc.co.uk.